Look in my eyes, what do you see? It's the VGC Podcast with me, Jordan Midler, Chris Scullion, and Ethan Lawrence. How are we doing, folks? Ethan, we've dragged you from whatever shady Hollywood party you were at last night for a bright and breezy VGC Podcast. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I do enjoy this vision of me. You having to pull me from Hollywood parties because it's on the one hand flattering, but also I know you're doing it to bully me.
No, not at all. I'm not a bully. Are we going to have a problem? Are we going to have a problem? Am I going to need to push some martyrs over you?
It's about 70, I will ban you from VGC.
It's
70-30. It's like yeah.
Yeah, I picture you as like the next River Phoenix, you know. I'm gonna be pulling you for the floor outside a Genting casino in Hull or something like that. Oh, gone too soon.
Outside the Mecca Bingo.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, how are you?
All right, same old. Can't complain.
Same old.
I got a 6-pack of the ice cream flavoured Iron Brew and it was fucking honking. So I'm slightly disappointed in that. But
what's your opinion on cream soda? Another classic.
It's not great,
genre,
which I think is why I don't like the ice cream Iron Brew, because it's basically they've just mixed Iron Brew with cream soda. Whereas a tropical Iron Brew is still not as good as the real thing, but a bit better.
They've also launched Iron Brew energy drinks that I've noticed. They've been in my local. It's not like Iron Brew 32. Iron Brew 32 was where it was at back in the day. That was the first energy drink I ever had. About Jordan Midler lore, I know y'all care. But there's like,
is that canon?
Yeah, that's canon. Because remember the adverts? It was like cuckoo. That's
the wee cuckoo thing.
That's our West of Scotland listener base are going absolutely crazy for those 2007 references. But they've launched new energy drinks. It's like purple, red, all that shit. But it's they've got sugar in them, and I don't drink energy drinks with sugar. So.
When I went to Scotland, we mentioned it the last time I was on. When I went to Scotland, Jordan claimed he was too busy to come and see me.
I was too busy. I was. Do you know what I was doing?
Literally the one time I was in Scotland, and he was.
You were in Scotland for about 20 minutes. I'm a busy man. I don't just.
I was in there for nearly 12 hours. I'll have you know.
Ooh, 12 hours. Went and did some bloody television. He's too big for us now.
I got slimed. I got slimed on live television.
And then you recorded the programme.
I know, I was going to say
that's me attending Hollywood parties, by the way. That's my version of a Hollywood party, going to Glasgow and getting gunged.
Hell yeah.
How's that fair? I should be at the Viper Rooms. I should be dead outside the Viper Rooms.
Gunge makes Glasgow. Let's get into the headlines. Headline number 1, Xbox said Starfield topped 1 million concurrent players on launch day. That's according to Big Philly P. Following the 5-day early access period for customers who pre-ordered the Premium Edition or the Constellation Edition, which...
Oh, here we go.
A little visual aid here. I've got the Constellation Edition, which I opened it and showed my dad the watch, and he was like, "Can you get another one?" I was like, "That's not how it works. Can't just infinitely go to whatever bloody sweatshop they made these 30 pence watches in and ask for another one." But this is it's an interesting metric because obviously, Chris, we hear about these concurrence figures from like Steam and stuff like that, but this is very much Phil being like, he can see these numbers, no one else can see these numbers, so we've just got to take his word on it. How did this hit you?
It's an interesting number for him to be touting, considering usually when a big game like this comes out, they say, we've had X number of players since launch. And it's weird that he's gone with concurrence instead of total players. It makes it hard to compare to anything else. It's lower than I expected.
Me too. Considering it's like on launch day, it became how much is the cheapest Game Pass? Like £7 or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird that because I say it feels low purely because it seemed higher earlier in the week when it was reported that 250,000 were playing it concurrently on Steam, and that was people who just had the Premium Edition, who'd actually paid extra to play that. And then on top of that, you've got to think of the unknown number of concurrents that week that were playing the Premium upgrade on Game Pass on their Xbox. So I would guess you were on about 500,000 before Game Pass. And then when it came out on Game Pass, to have only been another extra 500,000 on top of that. It should also be pointed out that concurrent just means people playing it at the same time, rather than there'll obviously be a lot more than 1 million people who have acquired or started playing the game. just at about 1 million at any time I've been playing it. I just expected it to be higher.
Me too, I expect, because especially after you see the numbers that Baldur's Gate did and like Hogwarts Legacy, and those were games that you ostensibly pay full whack for, regardless. So like there was an early access version of Hogwarts, etc. But yeah, maybe the actual numbers are higher, but it's just so spread across. Like, who in their right mind is buying Starfield on Steam when it's like 10 quid on Xbox? Did you think it'd be a bit bigger of a splash, Ethan?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's Bethesda fatigue. Like, you know, one of the things. I mean, I don't have an Xbox, so you know, I'm not going to be able to play Starfield.
No one does.
If they port it, which I imagine they won't.
No.
But like, when was the last time Bethesda produced property in this vein came out on launch day and like worked?
Well, worked is the question. I'd say the last one where it was maybe acceptable was 2015 with Fallout 4.
That was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wonder if people, because, you know, there's that Bethesda magic, and like Bethesda are obviously a very popular company and the games they make do very well. But I do wonder this time if people are just sort of like, I'll wait for patches. You know, because you've sort of got, in my view, you've sort of got a kind of three separate audiences here, three separate customer bases. You've got the people that pre-ordered, who were going to basically love it regardless. You've got the people who waited until launch day, and then you've got the people that are hanging on, waiting for it to, you know, stabilise, because I imagine a lot of people think it may be a bit janky. I haven't played it. I've seen evidence online.
I don't believe everything you read online. I've got a Matt Letizia newsletter that I can send you that gives you a bit of alternative evidence about the state of Starfield.
I'll do my own research as soon as I can afford an Xbox. But I do wonder if I agree with Chris to an extent. I wonder if, like, why go for concurrence over total? Although that being said, it feels like the concurrence metric has become more popular to talk about maybe within the last 6 months or so. It was never really a thing. Yeah. Until maybe Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's straight. I mean, to be fair, and let's be fair here. It only came out on Wednesday and it's Thursday now. Maybe that's just the first thing they want to show off. Like when Forza Horizon 5 came out, it took them a week for them to say, by the way, 10 million people played this in its first week, and we might get the same thing with Starfield. Maybe just for the first X number of hours, the concurrence is the first thing they can wave at, and after 48 hours they're going to say, 5 million people have played it or whatever, because 1 million concurrence means a lot more than 1 million people have started it. It's just at any one time 1 million people have been playing it at exactly the same time, so you're talking at least probably 3 or 4 million, I would imagine, have either started it on Game Pass or bought the premium edition. So it's going to be a big number. It's just, I'd wonder if it's going to be by this time next week, if they're going to say, more than 10 million. I'm really curious to see whether it overtakes Forza, basically.
I think you're right. Like, if we reran this conversation in a week after its sort of first open weekend, I think we're probably going to be looking at a very different number. Wednesday, people have jobs.
Wednesday's a weird release day.
That's the thing. Game Pass players haven't had a weekend with it yet. That's when it'll rocket.
Because it's
Cheers. Because it's a spaceship game about spaceship rockets and that.
Cheers. Like Elite. Do you remember Elite?
Oh, hi.
I mean, Chris does remember Elite because he's about 70 years old.
I'll just check and see if Elite's in the Dreamcast encyclopedia.
There we go.
Jordan, I don't think it is, but you do have, of course, you've got Space Channel 5, which is another the space game that's in there. So yeah, if you're looking for information on Space Channel 5, that's in there.
Is that the one with Michael Jackson in it?
He briefly cameoed. He was more in the second one.
Okay.
Space Channel 5 Part 2.
Oh, okay, Space Channel 6, as it was known. Where can you get that book, Chris?
Anywhere, mate. Woolworths.
Woolworths, Toys
Harvey
R Us,
Nichols,
Toy Master.
Just anywhere you want. Like really weird places as well. I was at a travel agent yesterday, and they were selling it, which was really bizarre.
I'll head down to my local Burton's later.
Burton's, H&M are doing it. Not River Island, which is odd. I expected better from them.
No, you're yet to crack that market.
It's a tough cookie. But yeah, basically mainly bookshops I've noticed, which is a trend that books generally. So your Amazons, or if you're not into that kind of thing basically anywhere that's selling books is selling it.
Basically,
Maybe they'll go to a charity shop and get it because I won't get a cut, but anywhere else.
I've seen how much you charge for these books. The charity shop would be out of business if they started trying to flog that tripe.
In my town, this is the mark of a dying Britain. In my town, a charity shop closed.
Hey,
That's how bad things are getting. British Heart Foundation is no longer.
God rest it.
they tore the British heart out of this community. Story number 2. Mortal Kombat 1. Speaking of tearing hearts out, story number 2.
I was going to say,
I was sitting staring you in the face.
As players get the Switch version early. As first reported by MP1ST, Reddit user... Why does everything have to happen on Reddit, so I have to read these clowns' names? Basically, somebody got hold of the Switch version, and the roster do be out there. If you want to know the entire roster, Google it. I feel it's in a weird situation where we've not printed the entire roster, and everywhere I go to is like...
But what we can say is that they announced last night that Megan Fox is in it now.
Yeah, unfortunately
as
not
someone.
playing Megan Fox. She's playing Natara.
I mean, I don't know.
See, for me, much like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat needs about 5 characters, right? Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Melina, Raiden, Boraicho. Then you've got a real Mortal Kombat game going.
See, you've named 3 more characters than I would use. Sub-Zero and Scorpion, job done. Mortal Kombat.
Really, you just need the ninja one, the woman one, and the other one.
Exactly.
That's basically all you need.
Job done.
Apparently, the Switch version is rotten. Chris, can you pick your jaw up off the floor? The Switch version of this PS5 game doesn't run very well.
I'm gonna hold my opinion on the Switch version until we actually see the final version, because this Chancellor has leaked it 2 weeks before it came out, and you always get day one patches, and all he's showed so far is basically there's videos doing the rounds, and he showed an opening cutscene which has this big freeze halfway through it, and you're like, that looks rough as hell. But again, like I said, there could be a patch coming out. It might just be something up with the way that specific cutscene loaded. I'm going to wait and see. We know more than anyone how knee-jerk the internet loves to be, so certainly the Switch versions of the previous Mortal Kombat games were actually surprisingly half decent considering the hardware, so I think they'll do okay with it, so I'm going to wait and see. I'm just up for it. I'm looking forward just for a new Mortal Kombat. That trailer they did with Bethesda was like absolutely perfect, so I'm pumped for it. We hopefully can get a hold of the pre-order thing that lets you put Jean-Claude Van Damme in it. That's like the perfect addition. Not too fussed about Megan Fox, but they do that a lot, don't they? That bring celebrity, because they did it with
Ronda Rousey. The worst performance, and I will say this about Ronda Rousey because she's a terrible human being. The worst performance in maybe the history of recorded media. It was truly like you'd got some wee Johnny Lassie off the street to record Sonya Blade's voice lines. It was like, "You're going down, Cage." And I mean, she was never a great promo, but come on, you'd think that she had a bit of fire. Ethan, you're an actor.
I am.
Why is this is a genuine question. Why does so much voiceover work sound so stilted when it actually comes out? Is it because people are recording themselves in a booth? There's like an isolation factor. You've got no energy to work off of. What's the problem there?
Part of it is energy. Like, if you're recording voiceover, you tend to be sort of isolated in a booth in some dingy studio in the Warren of London Soho, and so you're basically just feeding back from what you're seeing on the screen. So I can see sometimes while it's stilted, I will push back. You only really notice bad VO when it's bad. Like good VO, you don't notice. That's part of the magic. That's part of the real sort of the wizardry of acting.
Fuck off.
Ronda Rousey is not an actor.
No.
Or a wizard.
Oh, yeah.
Or a wizard, indeed. Although maybe, but that to me sometimes is the issue. Like I don't go in for stunt casting, but clearly some bean counter NetherRealm looked at sort of like, oh, Ronda Rousey.
Ed Boon. Ethan Lawrence calls Ed Boon a bean counter on the VGC podcast.
Well, you know, Ronda Rousey's popular. Oh, well, guess we'll put her in the game. No, you should, especially with the strikes going on, guys. You know, the strikes that are going on in the States right now. You should really support. Like,
are you a scab by appearing on this podcast?
No, I'm not a member of SAG-AFTRA or the WGA because far from what you believe, I've never been to America.
Not sure about that.
I am.
Do they show horrible histories in America?
No. Well, they maybe do, but I make it over here, so Equity isn't on strike. So
he's changing his tune.
He's got the
same story. It's the same story. Equity isn't on strike.
He's got the pre-prepared excuses in.
Are you prepared to call a strike on this podcast?
On behalf of everyone.
I'll withdraw my labour from the VGC podcast, absolutely. No. Because it's never getting paid for this and being sent the prep. Being sent the prep for the show 5 minutes after the show was supposed to have started. That is a new low from executive producer Jordan Midler.
You'd think that.
I was about to say, you'd think that's the new low. I've got 2 dogs that needed a piss, okay? And if they didn't piss, they would have pissed everywhere, and that just delayed the podcast further. So, speaking of piss, Zelda producer says there is no plans for Tears of the Kingdom DLC. Speaking to Famitsu, Eiji Aonuma said there are no plans for additional content in the game as the team felt like they did everything they could in terms of gameplay opportunities. At this time, we're not planning to release additional content, Aonuma said, translated by VGC. We feel like we've already fully explored and exhausted the gameplay possibilities. Chris, they just about got away with using this Hyrule again by flip reversing and maxing it out cool. Do you think DLC would maybe be ripping the pish a little bit, as we like to say in these in these shows?
A wee bit. I'm actually pleasantly refreshed by this. This is nice for finally for a developer to say, "Nah, mate, it's done."
Yeah,
like, we've done. That's the game. Piss off.
See that endless game we made is finished. See that massive, like, ridiculous mechanical masterpiece we made. You don't need any more of it. It's okay now.
No, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have minded them bringing back the motorbike just for a laugh. but like, if in terms of if they've basically exhausted everything they possibly could do in that world, then there's no point trying to make up like half-arsed stuff just for the sake of adding extra content to it. I mean, the game's sold 11,000 billion copies. Like, they don't need to. They're in a position where they really don't need to put DLC on top of that, because I think they've made a decent chunk of change from it already. So yeah, it's fine. Like, for I've still not played it yet. I'm saving it till Christmas. That and Starfield, I'm saving it on Christmas.
Oh yeah.
So
how much time do you get off at Christmas? 6 months.
I know. But yeah, but by all accounts, it's fantastic. So like, why spoil the pig by putting odd seasoning on it? There's a metaphor for you that I just made up.
Yeah. that famous Glasgow proverb.
Why spoil the pig?
I nearly said pronoun there. No. There's no pronouns in the VGC podcast. Don't worry. That bloody baldy egg's about to explode. Ethan, are you a man that holds on for, like, if you're really into a game, would you buy a big expansion, or do you just like play a game, finish it, next one?
Depends on the game, really. Like, not to deviate too much from the chat, but like, I recently just finished a replay of Elden Ring, and really looking forward to the DLC for that. Yeah. Generally, because FromSoft DLC is very substantial. Like, you practically get a whole extra module on top. Some are a bit more thin. It really does depend on how the game was when I played as base content as to whether I'm interested in moving forward. I agree with Chris. Once again, I sound like a broken record. But it is genuinely nice for someone to come out and go, we're not doing any DLC for it. It completely negates any opportunity for people to bitch and moan about when's the DLC coming. We know there isn't, and there's, as he said, plenty of game there already.
Also, do we believe him?
I was going to say, until they do announce DLC a year from now, and then people bitch and moan about that. They lied to us!
There is that. But, there's no trust in this world anymore.
There's always that classic, we have no plans for DLC at this time.
Yeah.
So then a year from now, I say, well, that was then. I wasn't lying.
We started working on it the day after that interview was conducted. Thanks very much. What if they do DLC but it's exclusive to Super Switch? Because it's like, oh, it's so powerful. The game barely ran on the original Switch. So what if we get it?
See if they just brought out here's Tears of the Kingdom enhanced, and it runs at 60, and here's the bike.
Yeah.
Job done. I'd be all over that.
That'll be 80 quid, please.
I'd be all over that like white on rice.
Yeah. You wait for Christmas 2025 to play that.
Exactly.
I think we're getting into this weird. We're obviously very much in this weird stage where everyone's just being a bit kind of tetchy about what's next from Nintendo. Like, then obviously, whatever the next Zelda. I think the next Zelda releases will be them finally getting off their arse and putting out those, putting out like Wind Waker and stuff like that, and just be like, okay, here's a Christmas game, get that out next to Mario. And
They're going to have to, because the next proper Zelda game is now clearly years away. So they're going to have to put something in there to kind of keep the fans ticking over while they wait for the next big one. So yeah, you'll get your Wind Waker HD. They'll port over Twilight Princess because it's done already on Wii U. Those will be the obvious ones, and then they'll boast that Switch is the only place to play every Zelda game ever.
Well, every console Zelda game. I don't think you can play the handheld games on Switch, can you?
Not the DS ones, I suppose. Yeah. But unless they add ports of Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and then
I mean, what was the
Link
one on
Between
3DS?
Worlds,
Link Between Worlds. Yeah,
yeah,
people were mad into that, so maybe. Yeah, it's a weird situation. I feel like the Pokemon's going to be in the same realm where they're like, next up is probably remakes of Black and White or a new Legends game or whatever. But it's if Super Switch is next year, I wonder if they'll just be like, oh, well, we've been working on this for a while. The remakes will go on regular Switch, and then the first Pokemon game you see on Super Switch will be like Generation 10 or whatever. What are the two colours it's going to be, Ethan?
Oh, heaven knows. I mean, do you really need a brand new console to run a Pokemon game? They look like shit anyway.
No, well, you categorically do not, but there is a I don't know if you know, but Pokemon's the most popular media franchise in the history of the world.
Personally, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so to go. People will buy a
sand. That's going to be the next one.
Water and
Pokemon sand.
Ooh, Pokemon green and white. But yeah, I think there's a weird situation.
I think it'll be Pokemon.
I understood that reference.
Pokemon Smooth and Pokemon with bits in it.
Let's go around the panel. Ethan Lawrence, orange juice, smooth or with bits in it?
Bits, please.
Oh, I'm sorry for the language, but fuck off with
Why?
bits
Because I'm a grown up.
Oh, look at me. I love having wee bits of like fruit skin in my mouth, Chris.
Smooth, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't discredit either of you. I just think you got some growing up to do, that's all.
Couple of smoothies. Shut it just because you're 55.
Well, you're talking I'm 40, so let's not start the age wars, because I'm losing.
Ethan has the advantage of whenever you Google Ethan Lawrence, the first thing that comes up is a picture of him as a young man dressed as a teenager. So he's forever young. He's a beautiful young boy.
It's a real fountain of youth. Google.
Yeah. I'm going to use progressively younger and younger photos of you.
What actually comes up these days when you search me? Because for the longest time it was a Northern Irish salsa teacher, which was a real hit to the confidence. Oh, it's me now. That's good.
Oh yeah. That's
what you've been Googling.
Actually, it's a tweet of my daughter, so I should probably stop tweeting her.
Yeah.
But yeah,
see, I'm just getting loads of pictures of the different generations of your ridiculous trims. Also, I'd like to put out a contest to the VGC Massive. If you Google Chris Scullion on the images page on the third row, there is a picture of Chris holding up a Wii U tablet with a picture of what I presume is FIFA on it, and he's pointing at it.
Yeah.
I'd like to put out a little Photoshop contest to the VGC Massive. Tweet me your photoshopped image of Chris holding something up on that Wii U tablet.
Well, you'd be photoshopping a Photoshop because there was fuck all on that screen when I took that photo.
That's why you were happy.
And they just photoshopped FIFA onto it. So yeah, you'll be meta Photoshop. And actually, if you Google my name and do the image search, the second row at the end is that salsa teacher. Chris Scullion, IT consultant, is the salsa teacher who's been taking over my. I say taking over my identity. To be fair, he's as welcome to the name as I am.
He started writing Dreamcast books. But anyway, whoever sends me the funniest Photoshop of Chris holding that Wii U tablet, I'll send them a code for a game. They're coming out my ears in my inbox, so it might be some absolute shite, or it might be like NBA 2K27. Who can say? But
bold of them to send that to you.
no.
That's quite a lead time.
We always get the NBA games that early. What are you talking about? Anyway,
he's got to write a guide
story.
after all.
You know what won't be coming out until maybe
Here it is.
2025.
You can see the gears turning there.
You can. I'm whipping us back into shape on this podcast.
Here we go. See, and then what
It
comes
sounds like
next?
Bethesda's Indiana Jones game will be revealed in
That's the-
2024.
See when they said whip.
Yeah.
That was the.
Yeah, I briefly forgot because I didn't really have much time to read the running order.
Yeah,
you sent
but-
it 5 minutes
No,
after
it
the
was
podcast.
quite.
I bet you
Quite
did
tardy.
not see that coming. Announced in 2021, the title's development at Machine Games, who did those Wolfenstein games recently. Bethesda's Todd Howard has been doing the rounds, talking to the fancy establishment like Esquire and some little rat at GQ that I will remain nameless. Quote, "I am a giant Indiana Jones fan. I can be brought to video games in such a unique way. The game is obviously you're exploring stuff. It's about him. So if you're playing the game, how do you feel about?" This is what he said. I'm reading this,
It's salad. It's absolute word
I sound
salad.
like.
The game is about exploring and it's about him.
It's
yeah,
about
I
him.
fucking well hope so,
Oh, I
Todd.
thought it was going to be about Marion Ravenwood. Of course, it's about Indiana Jones. You tit.
It's about Tony Robinson. It's a Time Team reboot.
It's about Shia LaBeouf comes back.
You play as Mutt in a first-person shooter.
Mutt Quest.
According to the report, Howard wasn't allowed to reveal more about the game, but as the interview
Wasn't
listed
allowed by who?
I know. We'll talk next year. It's Chris. Is this game just going to be Indiana Jones Uncharted? Because that's what my money's on.
It suits me. It blows my mind that a franchise like Indiana Jones has had like 3 good games in the history of it. The 2 point and clicks on the Amiga, and then Lego Indiana Jones. Everything else has been dog shit. Or you're going to get people saying, "What about the N64 one?" What about it, mate? It's crazy that it lends itself so much to video games, and yet so many old school Indiana Jones games have been really underwhelming. So yeah, I'd be happy with an Uncharted ripoff, because basically it just needs to do what Tomb Raider's been doing all this time, because that's Tomb Raider does Indiana Jones like better than Indiana Jones games do. So
Yeah,
that's it.
I wonder what it'll be, because obviously Machine Games, their pedigree is these like big bombastic shooters. I think the story and stuff for the Indiana Jones game is probably going to be pretty solid, because I really liked those Wolfenstein ones. But here's a question, Ethan. In this Indiana Jones game, does it look like Harrison Ford?
Well, it's going to be about exploration. It's going to be about him. So if it doesn't look like Harrison Ford, then that's not him. And I can't imagine Todd Howard would lie to us.
But here's the thing. Is it going to be Harrison Ford, or is it going to be the legally alternative equivalent of Harrison Ford?
Do you know, maybe we should just go the whole hog and use Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
He was originally going to play Indiana Jones. Let's have an
true.
alternate universe Indiana Jones where he was played by Tom Selleck.
And then we'll make a Friends game where Harrison Ford plays Dr. Richard, the guy that does the eyes. What's that called? What's the eye? Americans call it an eye doctor, but what's it actually called?
Optician.
Optician. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a bit of a segue, but I read about this the other day, and it's been on my mind ever since. Just when you were talking about that. So apparently, speaking of Earth,
He's not a professional.
so you know, my mind's gone blank. The big crime TV show from years ago, Sopranos. So
Big crime.
you know what's bad? As soon as you said that, I was like, is he going to say Sopranos?
So there's a point. Apparently, there's a point in Sopranos where somebody makes a reference to the Gilmore Girls TV show, meaning that TV show exists in the Sopranos universe. There's a scene in the Gilmore Girls, one episode, where they talk about watching the Sopranos on TV. So that means at some point someone in the Sopranos was watching the Gilmore Girls and then saw the Gilmore Girls watching their life on TV, which would have blown their minds, because then they're like, what the hell? How come I'm on the tube? because the Gilmore Girls.
Is that your Gilmore Girls?
That was my Irish. That was my Irish. That's my Irish accent. So I don't know. Ever since someone said that online, it's just been on my mind the entire time that those two universes coexist, but in the Gilmore Girls universe, Sopranos is on TV.
There was a thing in the early internet, like way back in the thing, where there was some telly show that didn't do anything, but because it like crossed over with some shows, like it ended up being like this
Bad
enormous
Education.
graph. Enough, absolutely enough out of you. But it ended up being this enormous graph that like brought in like X-Files and The Simpsons, and it was like, oh, all of these exist in the same continuity.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's like that
series, man. All these theories.
It's like that big, massive chart you can get that every person Ryu has ever fought against, because of all the Street Fighter crossover. Is basically this is one enormous universe where everyone, but almost every game exists because Ryu's appeared in so many. Like you put him in Smash Brothers, that means Street Fighter universe exists alongside the Mario universe, the Metroid universe, Splatoon, like all those other universes.
I would love to see Ryu in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Just punching the fuck out of Goomba.
Speaking of, Chris, I never watched the Mario Wonder Direct because I was too busy playing Starfield. I don't think we talked about it. You excited?
Yeah, that was me auditioning for the role. Yeah, I'll be Mario. Yeah, it looks excellent. There's a lot of. I saw somebody moaning on the comments saying, well, I can't believe they've revealed everything. I said, well, it was only 15 minutes long, so if that's everything, it's a pretty shit game. No, I mean, the power-ups are like your typical Mario power-ups, an elephant, a bubble flower, and some other pish. I don't like the fact that Daisy's playable in it, because I've long disliked that character.
Really? You've never brought it up before?
I mean, I try to keep it hidden, but sometimes it bubbles up. The whole online stuff is probably the best compromise they could have done, because people want online Mario multiplayer, but I don't think they really do want it, because that would be infuriating if it ever happened. So instead you play it online at the same time as people's ghosts, and if they get in trouble in their game, you can help their ghost, and that's the only time you can interact with them, and then you get like community points or whatever it's called for helping people out, and then that kind of builds up. So yeah, I'm up for it. It looks fantastic. It looks like it might be difficult because they're pushing the idea of applying badges to give you bonuses and power-ups and stuff for each stage, so it gives you the feeling that this is going to be on the trickier side, which is good. Yeah, I'm up for it.
I want a new 3D Mario so badly. I love Mario Odyssey. What a perfect game that is.
Wonderful game.
It's coming. I mean, I think that's going to be launch or close to launch for Super Switch.
Yeah, we're just officially calling it the Super Switch now.
Do you know what Super Switch needs to have?
A better abbreviation?
No, a personality.
A personality. Yes,
that's the one thing the Switch
is
is missing, is just even the Wii U. When you started the Wii U up and all the Wii Mii's ran onto the middle of the screen, and you had the Miiverse, which was like fantastic, and now it's so cold, and like it works fine. Like the UI is nice and fast, which the Wii U certainly wasn't. It was awful, but it just feels. It doesn't have that charm the 3DS had. Like the 3DS was a joy before you even played anything. The Switch, ever since launch, the Switch has had that option in the menus for a theme, and it's always just been black or white. And it's like, mate, that theme menu's screaming for new stuff to go in it.
Yeah, I think Andy posited this, but they were. Do you think it was just a case of them being like, we are so desperate for a win here, we can't have weirdness. It just has to be the most bread and butter like games console of all time, and that's kind of what it is. But yeah, I would like some weirdness. Let's make friend codes 3 times as long. That's what I would say. We don't need to be. Here's a question. And I was thinking about this when I was adding people on Pokemon Go recently. Which, by the way, if you still play Pokemon Go and you're listening to this podcast, go on my X profile at Jordan Midler and add me, because I need to send people gifts. When's the last time?
Still playing Pokemon Go in the year of our Lord 2023.
Oh mate, it's
wrong with you.
It's tremendous. It's what a game. What an absolute massive waste of time. But it's I open my phone, I play Pokemon Go. That's it. That's what I do.
Aren't all
Pokemon
games
Go.
a waste of time?
I think so.
Isn't both your careers just a...
It's fleeting.
It's
That's why I do things like the Dreamcast Encyclopedia, because when I'm dust, that'll still exist. You know, so I mean, between me dying and like the nuke that obliterates everything, like Al still exists in a sense. So yeah,
Your death will be the nuke that obliterates
I
everything.
mean,
Have you ever
once
seen-
I'm gone, is there any point in anyone else continuing it?
Have you ever seen when like an animal dies in the wild and then it starts expanding and then all the lions try to attack it?
Is that not
and
Akira?
I saw this video, right, of this hippo that died, and it was like bloating and expanding, and all these lions were trying to rip it apart. And the caption on TikTok was like, "Watch these lions go flying," and I wanted to see a lion get shot 400 feet in the air with the internal gas, and all it did was its innards flew at his arsehole. That was it. That was the explosion. That's what's going to happen to Chris Scullion.
No,
I
one can
can't-
dream.
Just speaking of that anecdote, Jordan, I can't imagine how disappointed you were.
Oh yeah.
Flipping through TikTok and thinking, oh, maybe a lion will go flying, and what actually happened was a load of intestines fell out of an arse.
Yeah.
What a life you lead.
I know. The video was about 40 minutes long as well. I was just sitting there like, come on, one of these days.
Speaking of intestines flying out of an arse, what about Redfall, Jordan?
Way! Bethesda's head of publishing and most ambitious man in the world, Pete Hines, says the company will make Redfall a good game, despite the underwhelming reception at launch. Speaking to GI.biz, the house of Chris String, Hines was asked about the reception to the game. Quote, "We are always in a process of learning, so that's not new for us. We don't like failing to meet players' expectations. At the same time, we are a company that's had launches it didn't go the way we wanted, and we won't quit or abandon stuff just because it didn't start right. Tell that to the Wet franchise." Quote, "The Elder Scroll Online's PC launch was not flawless, but we stuck with it. Now it's an insanely popular multi-platform. It's the same with Fallout 76. Redfall is no different for us."
Sorry, I was just laughing at that. Sorry.
Yeah, look, you have to say this. The body's still warm at this point. There's people with Redfall tattoos that have still got itchy arms, but they're never going to sort Redfall out, Ethan.
What's there to salvage?
Yeah.
And God bless them bringing up the Elder Scrolls and Fallout. You know, venerable franchises that have been going for decades. Of being
They're bread and
Redfall
butter.
is the same as these.
Yeah.
It is the same.
It's
No,
exactly
it's
the
not. Fuck off.
It's like, yeah, just because, I mean, obviously we didn't leave our two biggest franchises out to die. We're definitely going to protect, what's his name, Red Vampire Man? Yeah.
Checking his tattoo.
Yeah. I've got a watch that I'm checking my Starfield watch. It just says Redfall on it. Yeah,
Paint it on.
Redfall. Chris, you've saved Redfall for Christmas, so you're looking forward to that one.
I think you'll find I've saved it for Thanksgiving. I'm just not that patient. Yeah, look, I mean, for starters, they need to make it 60 frames a second, like they said they were going to, because that's the one thing. Frame rate isn't a thing that I care that much about, but a lot of people get a bee in their bonnet about it, and I think just purely for the optics, they need to get that running at 60 just so that people will shut up about it not running at 60.
So the 4 people still playing Redfall will shut up about
all of them. That one 4-player co-op game can finally like play happily. I don't know. I think it's salvageable, but I think the problem is by the time it's salvaged, people won't care. Like they say, they have done it with other stuff, but Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76 are like on MMO type games where people are supposed to keep coming back to them. Redfall isn't. Redfall, to the best of my knowledge, is like a linear story. It's like a Left 4 Dead situation, is it not? So it's not like Elder Scrolls Online where you're meant to come back to it for months and months and months and months. So nobody's going to care by the time it's fixed. Like if it's not in a decent state at launch, you've got at best a few weeks to sort it, and then people move on. There's rare exceptions like Cyberpunk, but that's because Cyberpunk was so high profile, and people desperately wanted that to work, that when they finally kind of turned Cyberpunk around and got it playable, there were enough people still about to say, hey, it's good now, honestly, come back. By the time Redfall's fixed, people will have moved on. You've got Starfield now, Forza's coming out, all the Xbox fans will move on to a different exclusive that they can kind of pin their hats to and just kind of just pretend Redfall didn't happen, basically.
Am I right in thinking that it was sold as a live service, or am I making that up?
Yeah, I believe that. I think it's live service adjacent. Yeah, I think they sold like a version that comes with a couple of seasons worth of shite or something.
Yeah, I mean, this is always going to be the issue. I think I've brought it up on this podcast before. The issue with every game being a live service game is that not everyone has unlimited time.
No.
And Redfall fell out the gate. No one's coming back. God bless it.
It'll need to take something special from a live service game to get me off my daily routine of Disney Speedstorm, WWE 2K23, and eventually EA Sports FC24. Like, good luck to you getting me off one of those.
He's a sports man and a Disney man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big Disney Lorcana fan over here.
No,
loves Disney. No. He loves trading cards.
Fuck your cards.
Scullion. Fuck your cards. We're going to go and take a break, and then when we come back, I want to hear who Ethan has been feeling up in Baldur's Gate 3. We'll be right back. And we are back. The biggest game of the year didn't come out on Xbox this week. It came out on PlayStation. And I'm talking, of course, about Baldur's Gate 3.
Please don't ever do crowd noise again.
I mean, the crowd was going wild. Ethan, you've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, a game that I dislike more every time I play it. How have you been finding it?
Well, I'm not playing it on PC because my PC can only just about run this online meeting. It wouldn't be able to cope with Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm on the PlayStation. I had got the early access pre-order, so I've been playing it for basically the last week. I'm about 20 or so hours deep. I really like it. It has some issues. Largely the fiddliness of everything. Like, without mouse and keyboard, it is a bit of a bother having to flip through everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's astonishingly fiddly.
But I'm learning to cope with it. Having a background in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition helped, because it meant there wasn't such a steep learning curve for how all the mechanics work. So really, I'm just learning how to micromanage faster. But ultimately, I'm really enjoying it. I may end up falling off it, but for now, I'm still deep in Act 1. And I'm really genuinely having a lot of fun with it. I think it's very well written. I disagree with you in terms of the combat, Jordan. Actually, I actually really like it.
See, so I'm at a bit where it's just like everything that I'm meant to be doing is basically too hard. Like every fight will start and it'll roll for initiative, and my team will just get wiped, and there doesn't seem to be any way for me to like I don't know if we've just been playing this wrong and I've just not been leveling my characters in the correct way or whatever, but
you just need to, if you want better initiative, you need to spec your characters for initiative. Astarion's a rogue, so you can always get him to go first. There's ways around this, Jordan. You've just got to think.
Astarion, I would never think. Astarion always goes first, but then when he hits people for like 3 damage, like it's just, he's so...
Well, that's why you use sneak attack. You set up advantage and you use... Again, this is why, I did say this initially, if you aren't familiar with 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, that is going to be a steep learning curve.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar because I'm not a fucking nerd. I just want to play a nice RPG.
How many Pokemon
I'm not a fucking nerd, says the guy who was just saying, oh, but he has the first turn and then does 3 damage. It's like, my sperm count is dropping just listening to you.
15,000 Pokemon cards and I'm the nerd.
That's conservative, to be honest.
Jesus.
Yeah. I love Baldur's Gate. See, me and Baldur's Gate go way back. We're good mates. See, as soon as Baldur's Gate wants me to do any combat shit and not just talk to people, my eyes roll into my head at 1000 BPM. I don't know if it's just a case of maybe because I'm on the PC version, I just need to cheat and give myself like 1,000,000 XP and then just enjoy it that way, because I like the story, but I don't really care about the combat. Even early in the game when I was feeling balanced with the combat, I wasn't really enjoying it that much. Like it was just something about it that didn't hit for me.
Were you playing on sort of like I can't remember the name of it, but sort of like the native version of medium or normal difficulty?
Just whatever the standard is. I always just
I mean, if you wanted to roll back to, and there's no shame in rolling back to easy if the combat's too crunchy, because ultimately that they even describe that mode as being, if you're interested in the story and not really that bothered with the crunchy combat mechanics, go for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I probably will.
Baldur's Gate is all well and good, but can I interest you in El Dorado Gate, Volume 1 to 7, the 7-part Capcom RPG released on the Dreamcast? I'm sure everyone knows what it is anyway, but for those who, the couple of people who don't, you can read about it in the Dreamcast Encyclopedia, just saying.
Did you played through all of the games to completion in this encyclopedia before writing about them?
I got close to it. I know. But basically, the Japanese section is all visual novels about chatting up schoolgirls, so I kind of gave them a bit of a shimmy.
So you complete.
So I rinsed those, and then like just didn't bother with the racing games.
Didn't bother with Shenmue.
Exactly.
Speaking of that kind of filth, Ethan, are you hooring it and touring it? Are you shagging everybody in your party, or are you being a bit more? Are you being a respectful gentleman?
And also, how are you playing Baldur's Gate?
Well, first of all, it's important to point out, and here we go. There's going to be this. This is probably going to be the most controversial part of the episode. I have a character that I put in all the games, and it is not. It is not me, and she is not male. She is called Dorothy Allen, and she's great. She's an Elden Lord. She's the Master of the Hunt. She's done so much.
Elden Lady, surely.
What's that?
Elden Lady, surely.
They never distinguish that, you know.
No.
It's very strange. It's all very patriarchal in the lands between.
I mean, that was Japan. Come on.
So at the moment, I'm not diving in too deeply because, like, you know, lots of characters, lots of hunky boys and sexy ladies, and so I've got to decide which way Dorothy Allen's going to swing and who she's going to fill with her toothpaste of love.
That's the show title. I would recommend Karlach. Karlach's my number one. She's my.
I'm leaning towards Karlach at the minute because, like, she can step on my face anytime.
Yeah, I would like to step on your face from a great height. Chris, you've been playing anything this week?
Why would you say that to me?
I like threatening our guest.
You wouldn't even show up when I was in Glasgow.
Yeah, that's true. I was actually showing up. I was descending from a great height to land in your face, but you were too busy in your posh, woke, lovey lefty BBC hotel waiting for your TV appearance.
Oh, those bloody woke hotels.
I know. Motels, I believe they call them.
Yeah. Chris, what you been doing this week? Apart from kissing your books.
I'll tell you, the covers actually hold up well to a lot of saliva.
I know, I spit on them regularly.
Oh, there we go.
Still bought them.
I know you don't even buy them. I've been playing Forza, but I can't talk about that till next week. I can only literally say I'm playing it. So we're doing there'll be a preview up on Monday, written and video form. But so that's literally I can't even say whether I love it or hate everything about it. We'll just need to hold fire until next week.
Can you fill anyone with your toothpaste of love in it?
I'm not in the preview code.
That'll be a day one.
I know
patch.
they'll patch that in it. I was going to say there's plenty of crests in it, but that's such a kind of odd racing term that is probably not that funny, so I just won't say it. But yeah, other than that, I've just been playing the same old shit. The same stuff I always play. It's just really and doing my Game Boy books. I'm constantly playing Game Boy games, which is a blessing and a curse because there's some amount of shite on the Game Boy. Some amount of shite.
Have you got the Pokemon yet?
No, not yet. That's
the only game.
That's what
the only games that matter.
I'm playing Balloon Kid. Yeah, so that's basically been my life has been Forza and then Game Boy. quite a diverse range.
I am also playing a game that I cannot talk about, but I will let Ethan guess, and if he's correct, I will say yes. Go on, Ethan. One guess. What am I playing right now for review?
I don't care what you do.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yes.
Yes. Correct. Before we go, ladies and gentlemen, the video game chat has concluded for this episode. Okay, so I will just warn you. There is one more story on the docket, and it is the reason for this podcast's inception. If you're gonna peace out now, fair enough. If you're not into this, fine. Twitter, Jordan Midler, Scully 1888, Ethan Lawrence 55.
Ethan D. Lawrence. Let's make sure we get that right.
Okay, Ethan D. Lawrence 55 WATP. But next up, the final story. CM Punk has been fired by AEW after a backstage altercation. Now, last couple of weeks ago, AEW had a show in London that I was sadly not able to attend because
I was there.
Were you?
I was.
There? Why did you not stop it? Because I was attending.
He was taking part in the stadium stampede.
Yeah.
I was busy getting stabbed in the face with a fork by John Moxley.
I was seeing Boy Genius in Edinburgh with my partner, which, I mean, I was absolutely wrecked, so I could have maybe sorted this out. Following this, there was chat that CM Punk and one Jungle Boy Jack Perry, son of Luke Perry, God rest him, got into a bit of an altercation backstage, which led to the following statement from AEW and Tony Khan. Oh, wait a minute.
Do a Tony Khan impression.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm just getting the statement up, right. I need to write down the battle for this. Where is it? Okay.
Count the blinks, Chris. Count the blinks.
All Elite Wrestling, AEW has terminated the wrestler and employment agreement between Phil Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause immediately effect. The termination was confirmed by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative. The termination follows a week-long investigation for an incident occurring backstage at AEW All In London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met
One blank.
and later convened with an outside legal counsel before making unanimous recommendations to Khan that CM Punk will be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement. Phil played an important role within AEW and we thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contract with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to our fans. Nevertheless, I'm making the decision in the best interests of the amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential in bringing our fans the greatest show on television at arenas and stadiums throughout the world.
I'm just surprised
and
that
what I have just learned is that it's Tony Khan makes it look a lot easier than it is, apparently.
I'm just surprised that Tony Khan said Khan offered the following statement. That's proper The Rock stuff.
I know. I mean, he has a huge mark. That is his era of wrestling. I was very sad to hear this because I love CM Punk. He's my favourite wrestler of all time, as you may have guessed from the t-shirt and the 50 CM Punk figures I have and all that shit. Ethan, you offered an alternative take. Are we gonna have a fucking problem? What is wrong with your feelings on old Pepsi Phil?
There's nothing wrong with my feelings on old Pepsi Phil. He's a prick. I'm glad he's gone.
But he's the best wrestler of all time.
He's really not.
Okay, athletically he's obviously not. He is the best promo man of all time.
Not now. He's not.
Promos?
He's washed up, mate.
Oh, come on, John.
Look,
his promos are still rock solid.
Do you know what? I'm gonna be fair.
Okay.
When he first came back, I was so excited, like everyone was.
Me too.
And that initial run, especially all the stuff with MJF, I thought was absolutely fantastic. I thought he was doing some of the mic work of his career. Since his return after Brawl Out, it's been stupid. He's got nothing. He's 44 years old and washed up. I wouldn't expect Chris to still be operating at full capacity in 4 years' time.
He's got an absolute. He's got a random shot there.
On your side here, and that's the abusive friendly fire I'm taking.
Well, I've got to back myself in my own corner because otherwise I'm going to get banned from Collision. Ultimately, if initially, we don't know all the details. Obviously, we still don't really know all the details of Brawl Out. But it certainly seems like he's constantly escalating backstage conflicts to physical assaults.
There's no evidence of this. This is all just... I think that it's the typical... Jungle Boy's one of these Gen Zers. He's one of these entitled millennials that just because his actual boss told him he could do something, CM Punk is higher in the authority than Tony Khan. So when CM Punk said...
As far as I can tell, Tony Khan isn't fired.
Just you wait. Tony Khan has been banned from Collision.
Look, I'm not on the side of Jack Perry here. It sounds like he was a little bitch. He was being an annoying little prick.
Yeah.
But I feel like in your 20s, you're sort of allowed to be an annoying little prick occasionally.
Occasionally. I'm just as time's running out on my 20s, I'm getting as much of it in as possible.
Right, and ultimately, CM Punk would have put you in a chokehold.
Me and Punk would be friends, and I know me and Punk. Do you know how I know me and Punk would be friends?
Because you've got a photo from 15 years ago when he was relevant.
I met CM Punk and he was very nice to me.
That doesn't mean anything. I met Mr. Kennedy and he told me he didn't do drugs. And
Kennedy!
then like 2 weeks later, he was punted for the WWE. So
Aye,
wrestlers,
but,
that was a work when he was nice to you.
You could tell Mr. Kennedy was full. You would probably have met Perk Angle in his peak TNA years with his eyes like screaming out his head, and you'd be like, you know what, he's alright. He's on the natural stuff. He just has his Weetabix in the morning.
Tell you who I met once who was refreshingly straight about the whole thing was Val Venus. We were at like we get invited to some sort of house show, and like a VIP but house show like for one of the WWE games in London, and we were at the backstage bit, and they bring out a wrestler to meet people, just like a proper like lower mid carder, and it was Val Venus this time, and he's talking to everyone. He took, hey guys, how's it going? And he's walking away just for the sake of conversation. One of our party said to him, good luck tonight, mate. He turned around and went, nah, I'm losing. That
is a VGC exclusive though, Val Venus, refreshingly straight.
I was straight on the internet going, spoilers, Val Venus loses tonight at house show.
Is Val Venus still alive?
He's still
Val
going.
Venus is still kicking a ball. Fair
Val
play to
Venus
him.
is still going.
Fair play.
Big
But
Sean
yeah, I mean,
Morley.
I don't know if you've watched All Out and the most recent Dynamite, as in last night. I stayed up until 3 a.m. to watch it.
No.
Wow. No wonder you were late for this show.
I wasn't late.
Fucking.
Check the record. 10:20. I send Jordan a text saying, "Ready when you are, Chief." Oh, I'm just putting the runner together. Oh, my dogs are pissing up my leg.
Just pissing on my dogs. Give me a minute.
When you text me, I was putting the runner together, and then these bloody dogs needed pissed. So so what is the situation on? I mean, Dynamite wasn't not massively affected because he was Johnny Collision, but
Well, no, but All Out, I would say I was at. As I said, I was at All In. Like, you know, it was one of the greatest nights of my whole life. It was so much fun. Absolutely brilliant atmosphere. Couldn't recommend it enough. They're back next year. Take the time to go. It's it was really, really good. All Out was better. Like, this All Out was the day after CM Punk got fired, and they proved that they don't need Phil Brooks. What they need is Bryan Danielson.
I'll only go next year.
I think now has... So, go on.
I'll only go next year if they don't do any more pandering, like giving Saraya the belt, just because it's in England.
Paige, yeah.
That was a less good part of the evening. But it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tony Khan has now realised that Bryan Danielson is exactly what he thought what he hoped Punk would be, and
CM Punk has always been a much bigger star than Bryan Danielson.
CM Punk has always been a pretty little madam, and I'm glad.
True, but there is no bigger genuine star of the modern era of wrestling, bar John Cena, than CM Punk.
And there was no sadder GTS than the one he dropped on Samoa Joe on the Collision before All In. Oh my god, it was the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my life.
You know the CM
Here's the thing.
stands for Cry More. That's well known.
The thing is, I think there is I hope it comes back to the WWE. I think that'd be so funny. I just want to see the absolute gymnastics that he has to do to be like, 15 years ago I left pro wrestling, and then 2 years ago I left pro wrestling and went to AEW, and now I'm back in sports entertainment, baby.
I hope you're ready for a long mid-card feud with The Miz.
Oh my god.
He'll have one more match at WrestleMania versus John Cena, a double retirement, one more match.
I would fucking love that. That would be the dream.
The end.
With Dwayne The Rock Johnson as special guest referee.
Like I know.
Dig up the Iron Sheik to be the timekeeper.
all the sweaties will say that Punk's greatest rival was like Samoa Joe and like Raven and all this thing. Punk versus Cena, that was his best rivalry ever. It was the clash of ideals in 2011 when it was like, oh, he's such a rebel, man. He's so anti. I nearly said anti-monarchy. He hates the Queen, CM Punk. He absolutely hates her. But I think there is a role.
He banned King Prince Charles from Collision.
Loves the Pope, hates the Queen. Some guy.
CM Punk is a Tim. And on that note, we bring this episode of VGC, a video game podcast.
CM actually stands for Celtic Man. He's a good Celtic man in CM Punk.
That's fine. We'll take that to the SFA next week. You can follow me on Twitter at Jordan Midler. You can follow Chris at Scully1888. You can follow Ethan Lawrence at Ibrox Rocks. Until next week, you can send any comments, questions, and concerns to podcast@vgc-videogameschronicle.com. Honestly, go and I'm going to put that picture of Chris on my Twitter immediately following this. Get it photoshopped, make me laugh. I will send you a code for a game. I don't. It
is a very, very good picture, Chris. You look so young in it.
That was taken last week. I always look young.
You're looking great.
Thanks very much.
He's just got this really horrific age filter on this webcam. It has. I don't know what it is. For the 100th episode of this show, I want Chris to spike his hair up. I want him to take. I'm
actually about it. It's right at the point now where I get it shaved. So like next week, I'll probably have no hair. I'll do a CM Punk.
Right, we'll find a fellow bald for next week so we can.
Where can we possibly find someone bald?
I know someone bald with a goatee in the games industry. No idea.
Sad days.
What number episode is this?
4. Oh, I don't know. 300, 400, something like that.
No, we're on the 20s or 30s, aren't we?
How many weeks since when did this start? February 20th or something?
I don't know.
I think
I've listened to every episode, but I can't be expected to.
I think there's been about 24 episodes.
It's not bad.
It feels like there's been about 40 million more. And there will be 40 million
I would now have been on an 8th of the VGC podcast.
You've been on more than Chris String. Is you two battling it out, which really says something about how we need to get some non-white men on this podcast. But we will next week. I'm telling you now. That's my commitment. Until then. Watch my Starfield review. Come on, I worked hard on it. Watch the Starfield
podcast.
Is good.
Last week. You know what? I'm actually going to pay Jordan Midler a compliment, which suggests that he was really onto something.
Also keep an eye out from a Forza video footage on Monday. You've never seen such a clash of cars.
You've never seen such round cars. Look at the wheels. They're going to go. See you next week.